I am coming at you today with all the feels. Why is that? Because today I went and watched Inside Out 2 in theaters with my kiddos. And am I ever feeling inspired? We are going to dive into how a little bit more joy, a little bit less fear, and a little bit less anxiety could truly help you step into the leader that you are meant to be. I truly believe that there is a way for you to take action and inspire others. And it's going to start with you increasing your joy and definitely decreasing that fear and anxiety that is getting in your way. And I know that sounds like I am saying it is easy. It is not, but there is a way that you can do it. And there is a way that your actions can truly inspire others around you and completely shift your culture. And so let's talk about it. Let's dive into it. Let's get into all the feels of the emotions of Inside Out 2. Welcome back to the What If It Works podcast. This is episode 48. And usually when I am talking and speaking and delivering my presentations, I talk about letting go of the emotion, setting the emotions aside, and truly working through communication and leadership with logic and consistency. But today we're going to reverse that. We're going to reverse that a little bit. We're going to lean in to those emotions and see what we can learn about ourselves today and figure out a way to overcome some of these emotions so that we can truly lead from a place of our greatest potential. All right, let's start with one of my favorite characters of any movie, which of course is Joy. I love that I didn't know that this was Amy Poehler until Inside Out 2 came out. And they've been obviously on social media pumping up the movie. And so I thought that was so funny because two of my greatest compliments have come from former students who have tagged me in things on social media saying, every time I watch Parks and Rec, I think of you because of Amy Poehler's character. And I've had a gentleman tag me in a post of Joy from Inside Out years ago and said, every time I watch this movie, I cannot stop thinking about Miss Litchfield, which was my maiden name. Now I am Mrs. Vote. And that is the best compliment because what do both of those characters exude? It is like this unrelenting joy and excitement and enthusiasm and can do attitude, like go get them. And that is what I love. However, I'm going to try not to give you too many spoilers about the movie, but I am going to tell you a few things that relate. In this movie, Inside Out 2, Joy has a little bit of a breakdown. And she makes a statement about, do you know how hard it is to constantly feel joy? It is insanely hard, especially with all of these other emotions coming at me. And I want us to sit in that concept for a second. I am someone who wants to exude joy and positivity and energy and help people feel positive energy when they're around me so that we can move forward faster and together. However, it is not easy being full of joy. I've actually gotten cut down because of my positivity and my energy and my joy that I bring to the table or I bring to the classroom. It has been something that people have used against me in the past, which I now can laugh off and shrug off. But man, at the time, it really made me think about, is it worth the energy to bring joy to the table, to the meetings, to the classroom, because of how much gets thrown back in my face? And clearly, I have accepted and moved forward with the idea that absolutely it is worth my time and energy, because when you can bring joy to other people in their lives, there is so much greatness that can happen when people are in a positive state of mind and moving forward with momentum. But I want to bring up that you might be in an atmosphere, in an environment at work where you are trying each and every day to bring joy to the office, to the shop. And it is hard. It is like pushing a boulder uphill. And I am here to tell you that I know that it is tough, but man, Is it worth it to protect your joy and protect your energy? Because as we know, we only get one life and we have to work for a majority of that life. And so, how can we bring more joy for ourselves and for others so that we can have fun at work, so that work can be a positive atmosphere and an exciting place to be? So, I know there are some of you that are showing up every day with a smile, and other people might be wearing you away and you're walking out without that smile. But I just want to challenge you to keep going and keep trying, because you are important and your joy is important. We do an activity in my presentations, and I can't tell you too much about it because it's one of my new favorites. But in this activity, there are people who are acting in a positive way, but it's tricky. And there are people who are doing a task that is in a negative way, and it's really easy. And we have the groups kind of set into halves of, you guys are doing this task and you guys are doing this task, and the happiness, the joy task, is a lot harder than the negative task, because as we know, as people, it is a lot harder to bring joy to the table than it is to bring cynicism and negativity, right? And so what happens in this activity is that the people who are supposed to be doing the task that is bringing joy about the group struggle, and they struggle a lot. And in the debrief, we talk about, why was it so hard and what did you do? And a lot of them say, I just gave up. I just stopped trying. The negative group was overtaking us anyways, and so I just gave up. It was just easier. And isn't that the truth? It is easy to get sucked into the negativity. It is easy to agree with someone who says it's not a great day, right? It is easy to do that. But that is not what is going to create an environment where you and others can thrive. That is not going to give you what you need to enjoy work and make work fun and purposeful and exciting. And it is not what other people want in their lives either. And so when we can go all in and try to bring more joy into the office, you are going to get a result eventually. It just might take a while. And yes, will there be those naysayers who are never going to change their tune? 100%. I could probably name them off for you, of people in my life who said, Anne, you're crazy. I can't believe you can stay happy in this environment. And you know what? It's not even about being happy. It's about showing up with intention and bringing positivity to the group, to the problem, to the team, to the customers, to the clients, right? And so I really, really, really want to urge you to step into that joy. This movie, Joy, is one of the main characters, just like the first film, because she's got a hard job to do. Her teen is hitting puberty, and so she has to try to keep the joy alive. There's a statement in the movie where she turns to the other emotions and says, maybe adults don't feel as much joy. And she's kind of asking it as a question, but also making it as a statement. And I just wanted to like yell at the screen, like, that's a choice. It is a choice, friends, to show up with joy or to show up weighed down by negativity and fear and anxiety. And so I really want you to step into that. Adults can have as much joy and experience as much joy as kids do, because we know we have a choice. With kids, they don't quite know yet. But as adults, we know we have a choice, and we get to choose how we react to situations, and we get to choose what we bring to the table each day. So I really hope you lean in on that joy and bring it each and every day as much as you can. And again, I know it's hard, and I know there are going to be days where the negative Nellies win. It's going to happen, but it's also okay to recognize that that is going to take place. That is going to happen. You can't win them all the time, but you can choose to show up the next day with that extra little pep in your step and that extra little positivity. Now, I bring up fear and anxiety. I absolutely loved that Inside Out 2 brought in a new character of anxiety. They portrayed anxiety with so much accuracy. Like, I can just imagine the brainstorm. Everybody sitting down and saying, okay, our teen is going into puberty. What are some emotions that our teen is going to feel? And all of them kind of agreeing on, anxiety. But then somebody throwing out like, well, jealousy and embarrassment, right? Like, there are going to be all these other emotions. And again, I don't want to give away too much, but there are some metaphors that are used in this movie that are so smart and so spot on. But let's talk about anxiety. In the movie, anxiety takes over the control panel. And when anxiety is in control, nobody else can be in control. And isn't that so real? I listened to this dynamite podcast and I wish I could remember who said this, but it was a doctor speaking about anxiety. And he made a statement about how crazy of an idea anxiety truly is. Because what anxiety is fear of the future and fear of the unknown. And he said that there is absolutely no way that you could describe your future in specific detail. And if I asked you to do that, you'd be like, well, that's dumb. I can't do that. I can't tell you exactly where I'm going to be on this day a year from now. I can't tell you exactly where I'm going to be in 5 years or 10 years or 15 years. I can't tell you exactly what my kid is going to feel in 6 months. And so why would we think that we can do that? And that's what anxiety is us thinking we know what's going to happen in the future. And that is just not true. In the movie, there's a statement about what are the projections that could happen, right? And so the little girl is kind of toying with all these ideas that could happen based on different actions she takes. And they come up with all these projections. And one of them says, why are we coming up with all these projections? And anxiety says, because projections make us prepared. And I thought that was such a beautiful line because we think thinking about the future is going to make us more prepared for what happens in the future, when in reality, we don't know what's going to happen in the future. And so there's no way that we can be prepared for every single scenario to take place. And so, how many of you are thinking about something in the future and you're projecting all these ideas of what could happen if you took one action? If you applied for that new position at work, and then you go through all these projections of what could happen, what could happen, what could happen. And then you tie all these emotions to those projections. Well, I could get the job. Oh, that would be exciting. Or I could get the interview and then not get the job. And that would be embarrassing because everybody would know that I had an interview, right? And we tie all these emotions to these projections that we don't even know if any of them can come true. And so, how many of us have spent sleepless nights rolling around thinking about all these what ifs and all these ways we're going to be prepared for those what ifs? And then none of them happen. None of them happen. And we just wasted minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, years of our lives worrying about something that didn't even happen. And so that's what I loved about that doctor's way of putting it about anxiety is if I described that to you, if I sat you down and I said, man, if I write a book, then here's 75 things that could go wrong. And your response to me would be, but wait, what if it goes well? And what if I sat there and said, no, 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 there's no way it's going to go well. Here's all the 75 ways it's going to go wrong. You would like laugh at me. You would chuckle and say like, Anne, let it go. It could go well. You could get and list 75 other ways that it could bring positivity into my life. And so this idea of like letting go of anxiety, not allowing anxiety to run the control panel and really stepping into what we can control instead of letting something else tell us what could happen and what could be the result and how we could feel in a negative way about those situations. I also loved that in Inside Out 2, when talking about anxiety, anxiety starts to build belief systems in the little girl. And so, without giving away too much of the movie, I want to just use a personal example. And so, if I write a book, then no one will read it. And that is going to be all of a sudden the negative belief system that is in my head. If I write a book, no one will read it. If I write a book, it will fail. And then how will my actions reflect that belief system? And I want you to think about, what beliefs do you have that you are acting on and they're not real? It is not a real belief. I could never be a manager. Maybe that's a belief you have. I could never be a manager. And so you make sure to show yourself each and every day or each week or each month how you could never be a manager. I will never get promoted. That might be a belief of yours. And guess what? You are going to find, remember, we have an incredible brain, an incredible reticular activating system that is going to find every way that you are not going to get promoted. And so how many of us are starting to build belief systems based on anxiety, which is based on understanding or believing that you know what's going to happen in the future? That is absurd. And I'm not saying you're absurd. I want to make sure this episode comes to you with so much compassion for what you're going through. I suffered majorly through anxiety right after having children. I can tell you probably 400 ways that I have visually projected how my children will die. I know that sounds very negative, and you're like, Ann Vogt, what are you doing? But it is so true. I used to lay in bed at night, and I used to think about all the ways that my oldest daughter would no longer be with us. And then I would do it once my son was born. And it was years of me not sleeping and years of me worrying about every little thing they did, because what if the worst case scenario occurs? And it was a terrible way to live. And I know some of you listening to this right now are dealing with that crippling anxiety because you are in constant fear of the future. You're in constant fear of the unknown, and you're constantly worrying and trying to be prepared, trying to build that bubble around you so that you don't feel those emotions. Yet, some of those emotions that you feel from failure, some of those emotions you feel from embarrassment actually serve us later down the line. It doesn't feel like it in the moment. In the moment, you feel like a failure. In the moment, you feel like you want to disappear. But later down the line, it serves us and helps us build a new belief system. And so, what things in your life do you need to let go of? Can you just own the fact that you have no control over how this scenario plays out? And so you are going to go into that scenario with joy and belief that whatever comes, comes for a learning experience, right? And I know that is harder to do than it is to say. But I think there are so many things that have held me back, mostly fear, quite a bit of anxiety as well. And there are things I just have not stepped into yet, even though they were on my plan back in 2020. Like, I wrote out every year, I write out like a plan of all the things I want to do. And there are things that I've never done in 4 years because of fear and anxiety. And so how can we push through that? There's a woman I'm following on social media. I wish I could remember her name, but maybe some of you know what I'm talking about. She has a tasks I don't want to do written on a whiteboard. And I think she had 25 tasks she doesn't want to do. And every day that she finds herself avoiding one of these tasks, she has one of her kids pick off a number. And then they read out loud what the task is that she has to do. And I think I might need this. I think I might need to make a list of tasks that I just don't want to do, that I know would get me closer to my goals, that I know would help me feel more joy and energy because it's something I really, really want, but I don't take action on it because of fear or anxiety or fear of embarrassment. And so maybe I will make that list. Maybe that'll be something I work on. I've got a couple weeks where I don't have any presentations in the next 3 weeks. And so maybe that's something I do. I've got a stickler of a daughter, man. She is a type A to a T in the best way. And if I told her every day she got to pick a card and tell me I had to do it and I had to be accountable to her, man, so much would get done. So I actually really love that idea, because every time I watch this woman take a number down from her whiteboard and her child reads it, and you can see her physical anxiety and uncomfortability with the task, but then she completes the task and then she feels so much lighter. And so how many of us are holding on to things that we're just not completing because of fear or anxiety, nerves, all the things? We're letting other people's opinions get in the way of our actions, even though we cannot control other people's opinions. What are those things that you're not taking action on, that if you pushed fear and anxiety aside? At one point in the movie, they I think it's fear, who, it might be anger, who says, why are we suppressing all of these emotions? So suppress that fear, suppress that anxiety, suppress that anger, suppress that embarrassment, and go out there and take action. And just think, right? The name of this podcast, what if it works? What if you do the tasks you've been avoiding and you reach the goal sooner than you could have ever imagined? I am literally talking to myself right now. And if you are watching this on YouTube, you can tell my eyes are glossing over, because I just need to say that again for myself and for all of you. What if it works? What if you push aside those emotions, you tackle those tasks you've been avoiding, and you get the result you want even sooner than you could have ever imagined? It is possible. There is a way for you to show up as your best self, but it might take you suppressing some of those emotions we discussed today, and it might take you exuding more joy at work for yourself and for others, but also pushing aside that fear and anxiety so you can show up as the leader you want to be and model that for others around you. Imagine the inspiration you could be when you show up with a smile. You interact with all of your clients with energy and joy. What will that do for you? What will that do for your clients? What will that do for your team members and the other people in the office? What if it works? I am so grateful that you listened to this episode, because I know that so many of us are struggling with these emotions right now, and we don't have to be. That is a choice. And yes, sometimes anxiety is going to take the control panel over, but we get to decide how long it stays in control. And so take action. Take action today, take action tomorrow, take action next week. Get those tasks done that you've been avoiding. Bring some more joy to the office. Push aside that fear. Do not let anxiety control your beliefs. In the movie, they also say a statement of, who we are is what we will become. Who we are is what we will become. And so when you show up with joy and positivity and energy is what you will become. And I hope that that spreads to other people around you as well. I am so grateful that we're on this journey together, because as you saw in this episode, I am learning right alongside you. I hope you have the most incredible week and you take action based on this episode today. Always feel free to reach out and share your personal stories with me. I'm over at impact@anvote.com if you want to send me an email, or you can find me on Impact to Influence on Facebook. Give that page a like and a follow, and let's start a conversation about getting over these emotions so that we can show up and we can inspire and we can create change.